Are you all ready to start? It is 8:30. I'd like to call law enforcement to order. I'm Commissioner Sugarman. Welcome, everybody. Please read the first item on the agenda.
Item 1 is an ordinance third reading, an ordinance amending Chapter 14, Section 14 through 30 of the Shelby County Code of Ordinances to establish pay parity between the Shelby County Division of Corrections, SCDC Correctional Officers, and the Shelby County Sheriff's Office, SCSO Corrections Deputies, sponsored by Commissioner Erica Sugarman.
Thank you so much. This item has been moved by Commissioner Mills and seconded by myself. I see no commissioners in the queue. Let's take this item down for, okay. We do have a speaker. Yes or no? Please state your name, position for the record.
Good morning, Gerald Thornton, Director of Human Resources. Our only concern with this right here, a fiscal note has not been asked for on this matter, and we're asking that this matter be deferred until there's a fiscal note attached.
I did not hear you. Can you repeat what you said?
Gerald Thornton, Director of Human Resources. Upon looking at this ordinance here, a fiscal note has not been attached to this, so no one's asked for any type of accounting as to how much it's going to cost. Not that we're opposing this, but a fiscal note has not been asked for regarding this particular item.
Okay, this item does not need a fiscal note. My understanding is because that it is an ordinance that codifies a resolution that was passed in 2022. The resolution, thank you.
Right, and that may be, but here's Ms. Audrey Tipton here as well.
Okay. Please state your name and position for the record.
Good morning, Audrey Tipton, Director of Administration and Finance. Take it we're talking about ordinance number 1. Because of the fiscal impact of this ordinance, and we're in the process of preparing the FY26 budget, we're just asking that we defer that because we don't have a fiscal source right now that's associated with this ordinance.
Can you explain the fiscal impact? Because my understanding, this is just codifying a resolution that was passed in 2022.
That's correct to an extent. It's codifying a resolution, but still, the resolution in 2022, I was here actually as director, we did have a fiscal note attached. Matter of fact, the fiscal note that was attached was $282,000, $282,600 that was attached to the resolution that brought up the corrections officers equal to those correction deputies, because my office actually ran those numbers. And if you look at that resolution from 2022, you would actually see a fiscal note that was attached and identified where the money was coming from, the financial source. In this instance right here, which again, we're not necessarily saying we're in opposition to this, and we understand that, from my understanding, that this goes into effect in 2026 budget, but a fiscal note still has to be attached as to what the cost is going to be to the budget.
Okay, your request is deferred to when?
Audrey Tipton, Director of Administration and Finance, until the mayor presents his proposed budget.
Okay, I'm request that you all send the fiscal note prior to that, so we can, as commission, see what that would look like. And my question then also becomes is why this is a third reading, is why you all ask for it now as opposed to the first or second reading.
Actually, Gerald Thornton, Director of Human Resources, we actually did make a request, and we reasonably assume that such would be requested for, considering the fact that it's going to have a serious fiscal impact upon the 2026 budget. And in the last meeting, I guess it was last Wednesday, where Commissioner Bibbs made the comment or made the statement where, or maybe Commissioner Avent, I think it's Commissioner Bibbs, I'm sorry, where if there was any impact upon the budget for 2026, it would be deferred until after the mayor presents his budget. And then also, from my perspective as Director of Human Resources, we've got a commission-driven compensation study that we're working to see what the impact is going to be upon the budget as well. So that addresses this one as well as the other matters on the agenda. But again, we're not opposed to this, but a fiscal study or has not been conducted, so we'll know exactly how much it's going to cost for these individuals to be brought up to the same salaries as the sheriff department. And also for the record, if you recall, the reason why we're in this situation, Commissioner Sugarman, is the fact that when the sheriff gave his 5% increases across the board to his employees, there were two resolutions. One gave increases to his law enforcement officers, and then he came back the next week and gave a 5% increase to all of his staff. You all have corrected the issue when it comes to the IBEW matter, which is that 5% disparity amongst those workers. Now, I do understand the intent of this right here is to bring everyone up to the same level, which, again, we're not opposed to, but yet still a fiscal note needs to be attached to see exactly how much it's going to cost and what the impact's going to be upon the fiscal year 2026 budget.
Okay, so my question on the financial department is to determine the fiscal note by the next committee meeting, which is, let's see, March 26th. So it should give you plenty of time so we can see as a commission also what this will entail. Would that be an issue? Tipton, would that be an issue?
Well, we're in the process of preparing the budget, so we'll try to get that in.
I appreciate that. Okay, so this will be deferred to, let's see, you all be bringing the budget when? So I can put it back on the calendar.
The last committee in April.
Okay, so I'll defer this to April 30th. When's April 30th? I'll move this to April 30th, the committee meeting that you all requested. And it's been seconded. Okay, deferred to April 30th. Without objection?
Commissioner Sugarman and Commissioners, if you would
Okay,
please.
Commissioner Sugarman move to.
Thank you.
Move to hear this ordinance on April 30th, the next committee meeting, in compliance with a request from the Finance Department, and Commissioner Mills has seconded this motion. Can we do this without objection? So moved.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so April 30th is Gerald Thornton, Director of Human Resources.
Please turn your mic on. Okay.
Gerald Thornton, Director of Human Resources. You said April 30th, which is the date in which the mayor gives his budget. Then you mentioned another date, is that you're asking finance to have it to you, the numbers in advance of that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Gotcha. Understand.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you all so much. Okay, can we read the second item on the agenda?
Item 2 is a resolution to approve the expenditure of $1 million in FY 2025 funds for youth villages through its Memphis Allies initiative to implement its Switch Youth program. This item requires the expenditure of Shelby County Sheriff's Office grant funds, sponsored by Commissioner Erica Sugarman.
Thank you so much. This item has been moved by myself and seconded by Commissioner Mills. Okay, I see no speakers. Let's take this item down for a vote. Did you want to speak? All right, okay. We do have a speaker. Please, pay attention. We have to have a heavy agenda today. Please state your name and position for the record.
Good morning. Adrian Evans, the Finance Administrator for the Sheriff's Office. This item has been requested to be withdrawn until May 28th. Per the vendor's request.
You are so correct. I apologize. They asked to defer this to the May 28th meeting, and so I do apologize to you. I just spoke to you a second ago. Okay, and so I move to have this deferred to the May 28th meeting. Can I get a second? Okay, this item has been moved by myself and seconded by Commissioner Mills. And again, I do apologize. Can I do this without objection? So moved. Okay. Parliamentarian, please read item number 3.
Yeah, May 28th. Item 3 is a resolution amending the FY 25 capital improvement plan.
Excuse me, point of information. They stated May 28th.
Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I thought
That's
you
what
heard, I
said.
heard you all say May 20th. I just wanted to make sure for the record.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, please proceed.
Item 3 is a resolution amending the FY25 Capital Improvement Plan budget and approving the expenditure and appropriation of funds for the completion of the renovation of the Shelby County Division of Corrections W Building at 1045 Mullen Station Road for the Corrections Administrative and Training Academy. This item requires the expenditure and appropriation of FY 2025 Capital Improvement Budget funds in the amount of $375,000, sponsored by Commissioner McWright.
Thank you so much for that. This item has been moved by myself, Commissioner Sugarman, and seconded by Commissioner Mills. And we do have a speaker. Please state your name and position for the record.
Good morning. My name is Jonathan Russell. I'm the Administrator of Finance for Shelby County Division of Corrections. We're proposing to do this action so that we can finally finish the training academy, and that'll help us with a proposed proposed venture that we're about to enter into, in which we're going to have to train 93 correction officers in addition to our own complement. And so we need the space and we need the clarity to finish as soon as possible so that we can get that done.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Mills?
Thank you. Just confirming, this is money that's already been allocated? It's not
Correct.
new money? Okay.
No, not new money. It's all in the FY25.
Okay, just confirming. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no other commissioners in the queue. Let's take this item down for a vote. Can we have a tally?
We have aye votes from Commissioners Sugarman, Mills, Morrison, and Brooks. We have 4 aye votes.
Thank you. This item goes down with favorable recommendation.
Thank you.
Parliamentarian, please read item number 4.
Item 4 is a resolution to accept a state grant in the amount of $62,500 and to amend the FY 2025 operating budget to expend grant funds in the amount of $62,500 from the State of Tennessee Office of Criminal Justice Programs and approve the expenditure of funds for the Themis Center for Justice Policy, Practice, and Research to conduct an impact study. This item requires the appropriation and expenditure of FY 2025 state grant funds in the amount of $62,500, sponsored by Commissioner Erica Sugarman.
Thank you. This item has been moved by Commissioner Sugarman and seconded by Commissioner Mills. We do have a speaker. Please state your name and position for the record.
Good morning, Adrian Daly Evans, Shelby County Sheriff Department Finance Administrator. The item before you is basically for us, giving us authorization for the expenditure associated with the impact study from funds that were approved via a grant through the state of Tennessee.
Would anybody like to speak? See no commissioners in the queue? Commissioner Brooks, you have the floor.
Could you just expand on this program a little bit for me, please?
The program is a youth program called Switch. The original grant amount is $516,440. Of that, it includes the program expenses for the youth in the amount of $264,740 as reflected on the summary. The additional $62,500 expenditure is just for the impact study associated with the program from a statistical purpose.
Okay. My intent was to get some information about what this program does.
Just 1 second, please. I have Kate Matt, our grant program manager, come up.
Thank you. Are there any documents in the system?
Yes. Katie Mack, Grants Manager, Shelby County Sheriff's Office. The Switch Youth program is to try to reduce violence amongst youth in the community.
To reduce what now?
Violence among youth in the community.
Okay, and how you plan to go about that, and what youth, how are you doing that? What's your process?
Switch Youth is not run by the sheriff's office. It's,
Is there anyone here that can talk about the program, please?
no, because this was just for the evaluation. This resolution is.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. And so I do have some questions because, so this is through the Shelby County Sheriff's Department, correct? So have y'all been in conversation with Judge Sugarman because he is now taking over, as well as the corrections taking over handling detainees, the Shelby County youth. And so have y'all had conversations with either the Corrections Department or Judge Sugarman? Please state your name, position for the record.
Katie Mack, Shelby County Sheriff's Office, the grants manager. As I understand it, Switch Youth is in communication with juvenile court. They do receive some referrals from juvenile court. But again, the sheriff's office does not run the Switch Youth program. Another agency does.
Okay, I would like to defer this because I would really want to have conversations with the sheriff, see what's going on because we're in transition. And so I want to make sure that Judge Sugarman, as well as the corrections who are now responsible detainees, are involved. And so I would like to defer this so that you all can have conversation, as well as I will have a conversation with Judge Sugarman, as well as the corrections about Switch, and give more information to Commissioner Brooks, questioning about the Switch, et cetera, and how it's going to benefit the individuals. Because there are a lot of issues going on. I want to make sure the best outcomes are for our youth who are detained or in our care. So I would like to defer this to the next committee meeting, which is March 26th. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Without objection? Thank you.
I have,
I'm not through. Okay, this item has been moved by Commissioner Sugarman and second by Commissioner Brooks without objection. It deferred to the next committee meeting, which is March the 26th.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
if we could ask the Sheriff's Department to maybe get someone from Youth Villages, which is the umbrella organization for Memphis Allies.
Yes.
Have these people here so that they can talk to us and
We
give
will.
us some information about the program, please.
As well,
We're
yes.
talking about $1 million, is that correct?
No.
no.
The original amount has already been approved by the commission. This just the approval for the expenditure for the $62,500 for the impact study associated with the program. The other expenditures have already been approved.
Well, I guess I'm looking at the wrong resolution. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You sure?
I'm done. Thank you, ma'am.
I think I'm in the queue. Did you see me?
Oh no, I did not see you
It was
all.
after the deferment, but if I could make a motion to reconsider.
Okay, the motion is on the floor to reconsider by Commissioner Morrison and seconded by Commissioner Mills. Okay, so I'm object for this, okay, there's been an objection by Commissioner Brooks. So now I'm going to open up for discussion.
I'd just like,
Commissioner Morrison?
thank you. I'd like to go ahead with item number 4 as it is related to getting this grant moving and rather than a delay. That's simply it, and I'm sorry I missed the discussion there.
Okay. Okay. Is this a time issue, constraint issue as far as if we defer it to another date?
Adrian Evans, Shelby County Sheriff Office, Finance Administrator. The purpose of this is to get it in as it was approved by the grantor so that we can start the process. But I truly do understand that you want to make sure that we are collaborating with the judge in his area as it relates to the transition. However, the transition will not impact the study, so that we can understand the benefits of the program and report the information, monitor the process, and report to the state so we'll be in compliance with the grant.
I understand your concern, but however, he may have some input as well as what the study should entail. And I want to make sure that we are transparent and there's accountability. And I do understand that the study is for the youth as well as the guidance as far as the judge as well as the corrections who are now going to be in charge of the detainees. And they need to be involved in the whole process. So I guess at this point, we need to take this, do I see anybody in the queue? Okay. Okay. Can we raise hands in school? Okay. Okay, Commissioner Mills and then Commissioner Brooks.
Okay, my concern is that there was confusion about which item we were on, and we deferred it, and it's two separate items, and that we're deferring one that a commissioner didn't know was on the table.
Okay, it's item number 4.
Yes, and a commissioner thought it was a previous item.
Okay, so we're on item number 4.
This one's just the 62,000, not the
Correct.
$1 million youth villages
Correct.
or alliance.
And the problem also, I think, is the wrong item in the queue as well. So it's showing, so they're having technical difficulties. So let us pause for about 5 minutes and get this straight. Can we have the correct item on the queue, number 1? And then number 2, can we make sure that my colleagues can vote, can request to be spoken so I can see what they're doing? So we need IT out here.
And we need-
Commissioner Brooks, you're next.
We need to be able to access the documents that are in the system. I can't pull up any documents. I'm stuck on item number 2. So, well, I guess you could answer one question, this 62,500. What program is that going to? What organization?
The Switch Youth Program.
And that's under youth villages.
The Switch Youth Program? We're talking about two different things.
Okay, item number 4, we're talking about $62,500. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the organization that the money is going to is?
The organization is noticed as Youth Village, correct?
Ma'am?
Katie Mack, Grants Manager, Shelby County Sheriff's Office. The 62,500 is going to the FEMA Center for Justice Policy Practice, and they are doing an evaluation of
Okay.
the Switch Youth Program.
Okay, and they are under,
Just a
it's an
standalone.
independent,
Yes.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to reconvene now. I can see now the documents in the queue. And so the last motion was to reconsider
Item 4.
item 4. And so the vote would be parliamentarian to vote it up or down. Yes would mean that we would reconsider, and no would mean that we would not. Is that correct?
Yes, and it's a procedural vote, so it's the majority of those present and voting.
Okay. Anybody, I don't see anybody, if you have, I don't see anybody in the queue, but if you're in the queue, raise your hand. Okay, let's take this item down, let's take the motion down for a vote. Again, we repeat what yes means and no means for the record. Correct. Maybe a tally?
We have aye votes from Commissioners Mills, Bradford, Morrison, and Avant. Commissioners Sugarman and Brooks have voted no. We have 4 ayes and 2 noes.
Thank you. So the motion to reconsider passes. So now we're going to go back to voting on the resolution itself. Would anybody like to speak before we take this item down for a vote? Seeing no one in the queue, okay, let's take this item down for a vote. Can we have a tally?
We have aye votes from Commissioners Mills, Bradford, Morrison, Lowry, and Avant. Commissioners Sugarman and Brooks voted no. We have 5 ayes and 2 noes.
Thank you. This item goes down with a favorable recommendation, and this concludes Law Enforcement Committee.
All right, thank you. I'd like to call to order Committee Number 7, Economic Development Tourism. Parliamentarian, please read item number 1.
Item 1 is an ordinance first reading, a joint ordinance of the Board of County Commissioners of Shelby County, Tennessee, and the Council of the City of Memphis enacted pursuant to the Community Redevelopment Act of 1998 and the Uniformity in Tax Increment Financing Act of 2012, providing for the establishment of the Cleveland Street Corridor Redevelopment Trust Fund Ordinance, sponsored by Commissioner Mikkel Lowry and Commissioner Henry E. Brooks. This item was deferred in February 21st, 2025 committee meeting.
Thank you. Item was moved by Commissioner Sugarman, seconded by Commissioner Morrison. I believe we have a presentation. How you all doing? If you state before you speak, just remember to state your name and address or title given. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Andre Dean, 70 North Bellevue. Represent Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church. I serve as moderator emeritus at the Boulevard, and on behalf of our pastor and all the members of Mississippi Boulevard, we're excited to present to you guys.
Morning. My name is Todd Richardson, 1350 Concourse Avenue.
Good morning. Justin Gillis, 1276 Faxon Avenue, President, Crosstown Memphis CDC.
Also with us, we have Shayla Coheim and Mr. Charles Monger, who serves, Shayla Coheim is in the neighborhood, and Charles Monger serves at our church. Again, with Todd Richardson and Justin Gillis. I'm pleased to introduce this collaborative effort that has been formally shaping over the past 2 years, but envisioned much longer than that by some of our partners. The Cleveland Street Corridor Partnership and Redevelopment Plan is an exciting plan. This tax increment finance initiative is the result of a diverse coalition of neighborhood stakeholders committed to revitalizing and improving our community. This is not a site-specific TIF. This is a neighborhood TIF. The partnership includes Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church, Crosstown Memphis CDC, and the Crosstown Redevelopment Cooperative Association, along with invaluable input from key consultants such as Dexter Muller, Natalie McKinney. We are also grateful for the support of the Community Redevelopment Agency and the Memphis Medical District Collaborative, who have all contributed to the vision of this plan. Together, we are working towards creating a more vibrant, accessible, and sustainable Cleveland Street Corridor for the benefit of all residents and businesses in our city. We are proud to serve as co-applicants on this project, and please hear our requests and allow us to answer any questions you may have regarding this application. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'll turn it over to Todd Richardson, who's going to share some of the details about the district.
Morning, everyone. I'm Todd Richardson, 1350 Concourse Avenue, president of Crosstown Concourse. I just want to give you a quick overview, and then, of course, we're happy to answer any more detailed questions. But you see before you a map that gives you the district boundaries of Jackson Avenue to the north, I-240 to the west, Watkins with a little jog to McNeil on the east, and Union on the south. We've tried to keep it a small and targeted district and focused primarily on the Cleveland Street corridor. As you guys may know, Cleveland Street is one of the most used north-south corridors in the city. Poplar-Cleveland intersection is the most used bus interchange in the city, and there's some major anchors there. Methodist University, Southern College of Optometry, the Boulevard, Vietnamese Market, Kroger, Catholic Charities, and Crosstown Concourse. So there's some wonderful things about that street. Unfortunately, a lot of people just try to avoid it. It is a disconnected experience. It can take you, 10 to 15 minutes to go from Concourse to Peabody. There's no streetscape at all. There's grave concerns about public safety. And so while there is, the context has great bones, there is great need. A big portion of that and what qualifies us for a TIF is there's over 60 acres of abandoned, blighted, or severely underutilized land. And so the need is there. If you can go to the next slide, please. Introduction, next slide, please. And the next slide. One more. See, I'm going fast. The key determinants are things like this, and that is the purpose of the TIF. And the next slide, please. But there's also opportunity. So the mound, you guys may know, is a 13-acre parcel of land that's been abandoned since the late 50s when the interstate was going to come through the city that was fortunately stopped. The city recently voted to approve selling that land to a local residential developer who has plans for mixed income use there, everything from single-family homes to townhomes to multifamily. And so the key component of this is that there's currently no tax dollars on this land because it was owned by the city. And so this development will not be using TIF dollars, and it will be contributing all of that. It would be helping with the increment, right? Because everything in terms of the property value is added increment. If you go to the next slide, please. Here's just an overview of what that can look like once that 200,000 cubic yards of dirt is moved and it reknits the neighborhood back together. There are other projects that are happening that are on nonprofit land. The developments that will be happening will be adding to the increment. And then a huge opportunity here was with the Boulevard, and I'll turn it back over to Andre and Charles.
I'll speak to the Boulevard piece. Charles is going to have to leave us. I think he's got to go across the street for a minute. But basically, Mississippi Boulevard is one of the largest landowners in this particular area. We had been looking at this project just in a bubble ourselves. We had created a master plan development for our particular 23, 24 acres, and we were looking around and started looking at the other people that were doing different projects in the area and came across this TIF application process. We started working with these organizations and said that we didn't want to be a typical church trying to develop land. We're not a developer. We're a church. Our mission is totally different. So we, instead of looking at it in a bubble, we wanted to be more collaborative in our efforts as we do this. So we wanted to take advantage of any of the things that would help us be more integrated in this community and in this with this project. So with this, we said we're looking at building a new church on our property. We have other tenants that we already have on our property. We're looking to improve some of the facilities for them, but also continue with the outreach and the community services that we do there. So we can do that with some more improved facilities. On our land, we have a lot of parking. So we're looking at using some of the parking space for multifamily, mixed-use, retail development. We also are looking at some commercial property for some of the tenants that we already have there. Caremore is right there on our property, and we're looking to expand that. We have some other things as well planned for that, but part of our mixed-use development would include affordable housing as well as market rate housing. So we're excited about what this TIF will add to our congregation and to our outreach, and we're looking forward to moving forward with this process, and we can answer any questions afterwards.
And again, just to note, with the Boulevard, no tax income related to that, and so anything they do from multifamily or commercial will just, again, add to the tax base and to the increment. Next slide, please. So we talked a little bit about context and the need, and then the opportunity, and now the uses, which would be all public infrastructure upgrades. I mentioned about Cleveland Street Corridor, think streetscape, crosswalks, sinking traffic lights, more satisfactory lighting, and addressing the issues related to public safety. There are also other things that we can do in terms of blight removal, which is going to be a huge one, as well as things that can help incentivize these developments, like what Andre is talking about in terms of sidewalks and water, sewer, electrical, fiber, those kinds of things. So all public infrastructure upgrades that can help incentivize this progress. Next slide. So South Highland, for example, is just to give you a picture. You know, if you've been down South Highland lately, the streetscape, the crosswalks, the traffic signals, the improved storefronts for small businesses, et cetera, are all great examples of good uses. Next slide.
Good morning. Good morning. This is just an example of the foundation that we've worked together as a community to develop. This was developed over a period of years with meetings with the community to ensure that we have a starting point for the TIF as the community gathers to build a long-term development plan.
And again, excuse me, just while you're speaking, state your name and address again. Well, just state your name, I'm sorry, the address, because we, obviously for our minutes clerk, you have multiple speakers, so just state your name and
Apologies. Yes, sir. Justin Gillis. The key things we were looking at here was really enhancing the framework of the community, reconnecting the disparate neighborhoods that are currently disconnected by the blight, curb cuts, and challenges with even walking through the neighborhood. We try to be very mindful and inclusive we want to make sure that the changes within our community infuse the local culture and include the voice of the community. And that's one of the reasons that we initially started with the feasibility study with the CRA, because we felt like it gives a voice to the people that are actually in the neighborhood. And we're really trying to re-envision our historically disinvested neighborhood as a vibrant hub for the rest of the city of Memphis.
So with that, we'll entertain any questions. Again, there are several factors that we looked at going into this application process. I didn't know if, Todd, you wanted to add some additional, but there are so many factors that we considered. But one of the most important pieces was community engagement. In this district, we have a lot of residential, but we also have a lot of business industry. So we feel like the densification of this will add to that community, but also to the tax rolls, to the city and the county.
All right, thank you. We have commissioners in the queue, so let's go to queue. Commissioner Sugarman.
Thank you, Chair. And so just going to put out front, I am in support of this, okay? But I do have questions. And so, first of all, you mentioned Mississippi Boulevard having projects. I want to know what other organizations are involved as far as projects go, number one. Number two, how long did it take you all to put the TIF together? And then also, when I was out campaigning many years ago across Shelby County, a lot of the business owners on Madison were saying that when they put those tracks on Madison, it impacted their businesses negatively. Some of them even closed down. Are you all going to address those issues? Because there's no trolley go up and down, the tracks are still there, and those businesses need support, the ones that have survived. And so I was wondering if it included, I didn't see it in the queue, if it included Madison, and if so, what are you going to do for the businesses that are left and who have survived the trolley debacle?
Well, as it relates to Mississippi Boulevard, we we held one of the community meetings at our church, and several of those business owners that are on Madison, that's contiguous to our property, were present. They've gotten over the pain of the trolley improvements, but they are interested in what the TIF provides, and that was the whole purpose of these community meetings. And in those community meetings, just to break it down, we took time to share what the TIF is, like just explain what a tax increment financing is, and we wanted to share what some of the usages are for this particular TIF. Now, as it relates to specific businesses, we're saying that some of the infrastructure that is around some of these businesses will be improved and hopefully help their outcomes. Some are looking for investment in those businesses. We haven't gotten that far yet, but right now, this is particularly focused on infrastructure. Sidewalks, streetscapes, if we can make it safer for the neighborhood or anybody that is shopping there. And I think, Todd, you can speak to some of the other businesses that are interested in the area.
In terms of the time, I know the CDC, Justin, Shayla, y'all have been working on this for 6 years. Yeah, 8 years. Wow. We've been working together over 2 years on it in terms of developing the redevelopment plan and the community meetings. In terms of the trolley tracks, I know that's a larger federal funding issue. I've heard some conversations recently about whether they're going to stay or go, but I guess I should say that's above our pay grade. There's some compliance issues with that federal funding that impacts all of downtown, and we wouldn't be able to address just that section between Cleveland and Bellevue, but it's a larger, a larger issue. Yeah.
All right, Commissioner Morrison.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. I think it's very exciting, and I also am supportive. Enjoyed talking a bit with Director Zena and also Dexter about this project. I think it's going to be great for the neighborhood, the community, and just a real upgrade. So I'm supportive of putting the increment back into the community there. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Brooks.
Thank you. I am in support of this project, and I do want to say that this is the only TIF project that's come before us that has been in compliance with the Shelby County Community Engagement Resolution that was passed May 6th. So I appreciate the fact, and it's sad to say, that you got to applaud someone for being in compliance with the law. But I want to do that because it's rare. A couple of things in reference to engagement. And I have to remind you that community engagement is extremely important. Education is a major component of it. And I've talked with some of the residents of the area, and they were happy to be engaged. And we want to continue to engage those communities, and we need to talk about identify the communities and neighborhoods within the boundaries of the TIF so that we can keep them all engaged throughout this whole phase. We have a planning phase, an approval phase. It all needs to come back to the community so that they can be on board, have their voices heard, and give you input. Because, it's tax dollars. So again, I just want to just applaud you, say thank you for including the community, and just make sure that we continue to do that. And I hope the others who are coming forward with their little tips, I hope you will use this group as a model, because you all have done it right. The only thing really that I would be a little bit concerned about is the CRA agency, their failure to actually give you those guidelines and instruct you on how to include those or incorporate those within your process. So that's something I'll have to deal with Andrew Murray on, but that's important. It's like an overlay or you can put it side by side, the engagement process and your community redevelopment plan. And so I don't have any other questions, but I do want you to know the community is looking forward to being a partner with you. But do you have a list of all those communities and neighborhoods within those boundaries?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Okay.
Speedway Terrace,
Uh-huh.
Crosstown, Jefferson Heights, Madison Heights, Washington Bottoms, and there are 28 parcels that are included in the Evergreen Neighborhood Association.
So what about Washington? I'm over my time. I'm sorry.
Thank you. We can get back in the queue.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Avent.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, and thank you for the presentation today. I, too, am in support of this project, and what was really important to me in my conversations when you all were presenting is about the diversity of this particular community. It is a very diverse community, and that you had the voices of so many of those different constituent groups involved in that, in those community meetings, and you know, getting that kind of assessment and feedback. And I applaud you also in making sure that you were in various places for those community meetings to happen, right? Sometimes we gather and congregate where we feel most comfortable, but making sure you were able to go into the community to get all those voices was important. I do have a question about with the multifamily units. Are they single-family units or multifamily units, or a combination of both?
It's a combination.
Okay.
And there are going to be several that'll pop up and sprout up, but it's a combination of each of those.
And is that mostly on the Mound area that you'll have the combination of those family units?
In general, when I say multifamily, I just mean apartment complex. Okay. And they could be studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, okay. 3 bedrooms. And so there would be you know, there's a project on Court Avenue that actually just finished and is leasing that is an apartment. But it's, if this is passed, then 2024 is the base year, so that's actually would be helpful for the increment. So there's actually multiple projects going on for residential. The Mound is one of them.
Okay. And I guess, you know, just with all the work that the Memphis Medical Development Corp is doing,
yeah,
makes sense for there to be opportunities for those folks who are, you know, in a particular demographic, age demographic,
yep.
To have proximity to work. So
I know that's big for the Boulevard.
Yeah, that's one of the key focus areas for our project in particular.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Thornton.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you all for being here and the hard work that y'all have done. As you were talking, I was trying to ask questions and then go through your presentation and answer them. So forgive me for any redundancy. When we sat down, I noted that in this particular area, there are social services that are offered, particularly to the homeless. And the reason why this matters is when I was doing more intensive work with the homeless in Orange Mound, we have a Christ community in Orange Mound. So we were getting people connected, and they were referring us to the site in your TIF area as the homeless clinic. And so when we think about the magnitude of the city being referred, or the city's homeless being referred there for service, it takes on a whole new meaning. And so I'm just wondering, how is this TIF going to work with social service providers? I asked that just because I was on the CRA board and watched the Uptown TIF. And so that area has completely, particularly on the western side of the TIF, change, you know, the fabric of the community. And it isn't something that would welcome low-income like persons. And so I just want to make sure that we are accounting for how over time this is going to become a different landscape that could potentially displace or not be as welcoming to certain populations that currently it serves. So if you could just speak to that point.
One of the things that when we first started our project, before we even got involved with the TIF application, was we know that where we are located as a church, that's really the heartbeat of our city. We see it because so many social services are offered there. And so we're not abandoning that at all. We actually think that by improving the area, we can do more. We plan to upgrade our facilities so that we can do more work in the area in that regard. And we know that some of our other tenants, they're not going anywhere. So the VA hospital is going to still be there. Catholic Charities is still going to be there. Some of those other services that are between Union and Poplar, they're not going anywhere. Some have moved, but we see it as an opportunity to upgrade what we do for homeless and the unhoused. But as a church, we see those individuals as part of the community just as much as the people that drive in just to come to church. So we don't see that particular segment as a problem or pushing them away. Actually, we hope that what we do improves our ability to serve them.
Thank you. I'll get back in queue for some more questions.
All right, Commissioner Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple more questions. Well, let me go back to that displacement. If there is any displacement that occurs within the boundaries of the TIF, I'm sure that you all have included in your plan how that will be addressed, right? Okay, that will, okay. So how do you plan to address it?
There's really no plans for any displacement. And so along the Cleveland Street corridor, it's all businesses. There's no residential there at the moment. And so, but if there is actually a process that is state and federal oversight that has to be followed. And so that section of the law is in the development plan. So it's actually not a choice of how we deal with it. There's actually a process already in place.
All right, it's also in the Redevelopment Act of 1998 that I sponsored. When we talk about those businesses, I've had the experience, and I think I mentioned to you in Binghamton, when the state came in and did some streetscape work or road work or what have you, there were a number of businesses that were disrupted. Traffic had to be rerouted, foot traffic, auto traffic had to be rerouted. And some of the businesses weren't able to continue profitable because of that work. So that's why that advance notice has to be given. So whatever changes we're going to make that's going to impact those businesses, they need to know this in advance. That goes right back to community engagement. Couple of more questions in reference to Washington Bottoms. I know that there are several organizations that are taking advantage of those parcels, using those parcels. So what are your plans for, how are you going to deal with that?
I don't know. Sometimes you just got to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
And
if you don't know.
And know that you got guiding principles, which we do have, and you've got a community engaged, and that's just one of those that we've got to address in the future together.
Well, I can say to you that they know, they don't own it, but they've been given permission, to use it. So, just communication, engaging them, and then you all can work out something. I hope you'll be able to work out something. Now, in reference to Memphis 3.0, how does this redevelopment align with Memphis 3.0? Because I can see where you all have your redevelopment going on, and then Memphis 3.0 got some stuff going on. And I'm just confused.
So Memphis 3.0 is going to be completely separate from this. They're working on their 5-year revision. But between Jackson and Poplar, you actually have the historic overlays, and those will currently override Memphis 3.0. From Poplar to Union, those will fall within the standard zoning and 3.0 overlay that they have for Midtown.
All right.
I understand it's clear as mud.
Okay,
but
it was real murky. But let me just ask if you all have been in conversation with them. And then if you have some information to share on your next go-around, please let me know or send it to me in advance. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Commissioner Clay Bibbs.
Thank you, Chair. So most of my questions, since I'm towards the end of the queue, have been answered. So I'll simply just end with, I am in support of this project. I am, the things that have been answered along the way regarding traffic and displacement were answers that I think were really important as you move forward with this project. And I also just want to give you kudos, it said before, around community engagement and truly bringing all organizations and businesses together as you develop a plan. I heard Mr. Richardson mention 8 years of something, and then the Boulevard doing 2 years as well, trying to make this happen. So I think the thought and the time that it takes to make a solid project, thank you for doing that, and hopefully it will be a replica of what the things we can do across Shelby County. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Thornton.
Thank you. Are there any outstanding community meetings that you will have?
We
This is
expect,
just, oh, sorry. Yeah, you go, you're the community guy.
we expect the community meetings to be ongoing throughout the process. We're going to continue to have community meetings as the readings for the ordinances continue and afterward for the next 30 years.
Okay, if you could just notice us all when you have your meetings. And if you also could just follow up any concerns or questions that community members have had, if you could just share those with us for our review before the second reading. And can you also send, and possibly, I don't know if this has been created, you mentioned multiple neighborhoods. I'm curious the boundaries of those neighborhoods and how they overlap with the TIF area, and what, if any, areas of the TIF don't have an incorporated neighborhood association governing it, just where we can see where there should be focus. If a conglomerate of residents are not represented, then we want them to be engaged strategically to be able to have voice. So if you could send those neighborhoods, and ideally, I would love to see a map that lays it out. So that's 2 requests. And then the vacancy, I was reading a report about 14% of the parcels are vacant, around 184 you mentioned. What's the assessment of that? Who are these, who owns the vacancy?
Many of them are blighted and abandoned, drawing no tax dollars and no activity at all. Or they are in possession of investment groups that are currently waiting to move forward with whatever projects they plan for those properties.
Can you, is that data that you would be able to parse out to tell us how much of the vacancy is investment owned, or maybe LOC owned, out of town? Okay, good. I would be curious about the vacancy. And then I got a little more time. Yeah, I appreciate the intentionality of this group, both to just meet with us and have these questions beforehand, and then just obviously to do so much diligence. I'm always curious to hear what community members are saying and what the solutions are to that. When you lock yourself into this, you know, everything is well-intentioned, but then when it plays itself out, it can easily go in a different direction. Particularly, you're building infrastructure that's going to draw out more privileged players. And so my questions are always going to be about the experiences of those who are less stable within the TIF area, that they should and hopefully will be able to remain having access to their assets and, you know, the spaces that they know and love. So whatever we can do in these future readings to give assurance there, then I would love to walk through that line of questioning. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other commissioners in the queue, I just echo the sentiments. Thank you all for the presentation, and echo the fact that thank you all for the work that's been done on the front end to make sure that people continue to be engaged. I know you continue that process as well. Passionate about that just because this is an area that I and also Commissioner Brooks represent. I live in my district, obviously. I attend church in my district as well. And so I just wanted to make that known, disclose that I am a member of Mississippi Boulevard as well, but still given the legal approval to be able to vote on this as well, out of abundance of caution. All right. Let's take this to a vote. All right, let's close the screen, report to tally.
We have aye votes from Commissioners Caswell, Sugarman, Ford, Bradford, Thornton, Morrison, Brooks, Lowry, Avant, and Chairman Whaley. We have 10 aye votes.
All right, that goes down with the favorable recommendation. Parliamentarian, please read item number 2.
Item 2 is a resolution finding of conditions necessary for community redevelopment in the Cleveland Street Corridor area and adoption of the Community Redevelopment Plan for the Cleveland Street Corridor area, sponsored by Commissioner Mikhail Lowry and Commissioner Henry E. Brooks. This item was deferred in February 21st, 2025 committee meeting.
Thank you. That was moved by Commissioner Sugarman, second by Commissioner Bradford. Anything else? All right. Seeing no commissioners in the queue, let's take this to a vote. Thank you. Let's close the screens and report to tally.
We have aye votes from Commissioners Caswell, Sugarman, Ford, Wright, Bradford, Thornton, Morrison, Brooks, Lowry, and Chairman Whaley. We have 10 aye votes.
Thank you. The item goes down with a favorable recommendation, and this concludes committee number 7.
Good morning. We will now convene committee number 10, General Government. Madam Parliamentarian, please read the first item.
Item 1 is a resolution approving the election of notaries public for appointment and a reappointment for Shelby County, Tennessee, sponsored by Commissioner Henry E. Brooks.
Okay, we have this item before us. It was moved by Commissioner Bradford and second by Commissioner Sugarman. Okay, seeing no members in the queue, the county attorney's office has notified us that there are no conflicts. Seeing no members in the queue, we will move to the vote. Ms. Clerk, please prepare the board. Every member voted. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, may we have a tally?
We have aye votes from Commissioners Caswell, Sugarman, Ford, Wright, Bradford, Morrison, Brooks, Lowry, and Chairman Whaley. We have 9 aye votes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Parliamentarian, please read item number 2.
Item 2 is an ordinance second reading, ordinance approving and setting the salary of the Shelby County Sheriff for the 2026 through 2030 term of office, sponsored by Commissioner Dr. Edmund Ford Jr.
Thank you. This item has been moved by Commissioner Sugarman and second by Commissioner Bradford. And we have one member in the queue, Commissioner Ford.
Very quickly, this item was brought up in first reading, and a few highlights. I'm going to make a small motion, but then I'm also going to ask for this to go back to committee again for the purposes of bringing more information. Right now, the sheriff's salary is $199,500. It is set for 4 years, and there are salaries that are actually catching up, if not exceeding, the sheriff's current salary. This has to be done in this particular calendar year by state law, and talking to the Sheriff Deputies Association, they made recommendations. The recommendation that they have is still less than what the Memphis Police chief makes, but it would be more than what other sheriffs make in the 95 jurisdictions. So what I like to do is I like to make a motion to fill in the blank, and then after filling in the blank, I like to make a motion to refer this back to committee in order to discuss this item more thoroughly. So with that being said, the now therefore be it resolved paragraph has a blank, and I like to move that the blank be filled with a salary of $235,000.
Okay, the commissioner has moved, and it's been moved and properly second. It's, all right, moved by Commissioner Ford, and second by Commissioner Bradford. Any additional discussion on this motion? Commissioner Bradford.
I just had one quick question. I think when we did this 4 years ago, the mayor's salary was tied into this somehow, and I think it caused some compression, so we had to adjust the mayor. So I just wanted to make sure we're not having to adjust that one as well, just to verify.
Okay. Is it to the chair?
Probably to the sponsor.
Okay.
You recognize?
Yes, there is a statute that states that the sheriff can make up to between 80 to 95%. So if this body does pass the increase, that other increase has to happen. The only other way that the sheriff, whoever he or she is, coming up in the next election would actually make more is if they take over corrections as well. That's the only way that they're able to make more. Otherwise, they can only make between 80 to 95% of the salary. So let's say hypothetically the 235 is passed by this body. That's when we would have to decide what that new salary for the new incoming mayor would be as well. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Can we do, it's been moved and properly second that this item, the fill in the blank, would be $235,000. Can we do that without objection? So moved. Now, the sponsor has moved to defer this to what date?
The next General Government Committee date that's on the calendar.
March
26th. So moved.
Second.
Okay. It's been properly moved and seconded that this item be deferred to March 26. Can we, the mover was Commissioner Ford and second by Commissioner Sugarman. Thank you. Can we do that without objection? So moved. Madam Parliamentarian, item number 3.
Item 3 is an ordinance first reading. Ordinance amending the Shelby County Charter to amend 1, Article 5, Section 5.08, Conflicts of Interest, 2, Article 5, Section 5.24, Recall of Elected County Officers, and 3, Article 6, Section 6.02, County Board of Education, sponsored by Chairman Michael Whaley.
All right, let's get this item properly before us. It's been moved by Chairman Whaley and second by Commissioner Morrison. And we do have presenters.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Megan Smith, County Attorney's Office. This item is looking to amend the charter to, 1, address conflicts of interest, and 2, address the potential for removal of school board members. The First Amendment to the conflicts of interest section really brings it into a similar situation as the state. The state's conflicts of interest section has definitions of conflict of interest that would be more practical and functional for the county government. So what is good for the state is good for the county in this regard. So that is the change that you'll see there. And the other one is more or less, in the event that state law is amended to allow removal of school board members, the charter will be situated to do that here.
Not on. Okay, in reference to what we're doing here, the conflicts of interest, can we just kind of move through these so that everyone can understand exactly what we're doing, what we're changing, and what it means, and what it includes and what it does not include?
That particular section is going to incorporate a specific statute from state law, 12-4-101. If you were to pull up that section of state law, you'll see very clear definitions of conflict of interest, very clear definitions of indirect and direct interest. I think it's important to know that the next ordinance that's on your agenda is also going to make some changes that help us understand how this will work operationally. But specifically, the state law is more, it has a more clear definition, a more workable definition for our individuals here. Specifically, this issue's been researched numerous times. We have specifically gone back and reviewed the opinions of several county attorneys, which we do consider privileged. However, they always struggle with this particular section. And we are hoping that these proposed changes make it very clear. People will understand exactly what they can and cannot do when they read this revised version of the charter, which incorporates state law and its definitions.
So Attorney Smith, does this change, well, it's not a change, but does this definition address elected officials employed by entities that come before the county commission and receive grants, contracts, and other financial appropriations?
Megan Smith, County Attorney's Office. This particular charter amendment would apply to officer or employee, elected or employed. And then, of course, I think we might also be talking about the next ordinance, which does speak more clearly to those programs.
Chairman Whaley.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to chime in on that as well. The next item we have before us is more of an immediate change, whereas the charter amendments have to go before the public next year. The next item, which will go through the attachment, will better define emoluments and addresses exactly what your question was.
Okay. Seeing no other members in the queue?
I'm sorry. I apologize,
Commissioner
Chair. I was
Lowry.
going through the document as well. I understand it's first reading, so I'll take more time to go over, but just a quick question. What is meant here by substantial? What is defined? Is that a dollar amount? What does substantial mean?
Megan Smith, County Attorney's Office. This is a question that I've actually received a couple of times since this document was published. Substantial financial interest is, in essence, a summary of how the state law defines an indirect and direct interest in a contract. So it does define in that section controlling interest, for example, but it's meant to be the summation of Title 12 and conflicts of interest.
Commissioner Avant.
Thank you, Chair. I guess could you just explain more about what you mean by the summation in Article 12, just because we just got this in front of us, so it would be helpful to have more of it clarifying.
Megan Smith, County Attorney's Office, that particular section of state law goes into defining indirect interest and how one can actually manifest an indirect interest in a contract. It goes on even more to explain a controlling interest in a company, for example, would be a controlling interest in that entity might indicate an indirect interest, and that in and of itself would be a substantial financial interest that this item is speaking to. Obviously, if the board thinks that the language could be more clear, we can certainly work to that end and bring that back to you on second reading.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Clay Bibbs.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just want to be clear on, of course, this is the first reading, but I'm clear on, just being clear on the action which you're saying around, the first one's conflict of interest. You're making changes based upon some of the things that happen at the state level. And then the second one is if the state passes something regarding school board members, is that what you're asking? That we then take an action if they do it? I'm right now it's kind of clear as mud.
Right now, if there was a change in state law, we are ensuring that the ability to recall certain elected officials includes school board members.
Gotcha.
So if that law changes at the state level, the law is in place here.
Okay, thank you.
All right, seeing no other members in the queue, obviously, we need to have a lot more discussion about this and reading about this. So I guess we have plenty of time to do that and give our input. Okay, seeing no other members in the queue, we'll ask Madam Clerk.
She said you got to speak with Commissioner Brooks.
Oh, that's right. Oh, Madam Clerk, please, I'm sorry. My apologies. We do have a comment, a speaker from the public. And I'm sorry, I cannot read your name. Rudd, Miss Rudd, okay. I apologize. Is she here? Yes, ma'am. My apologies. Give us your name and an address, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. I am LaShonta Rudd. Good morning, Commissioners. I am LaShonta Rudd. My address is 1200 David Street. And I just wanted to comment on the, about the recall. And I know the next item coming up is about ethics. Let me see. I attended several of the school board meetings, which was very tacky, and it is and was a disgrace to our community. The plot to get rid of Dr. Fagans. And I stood before the board at one of those meetings, and I told them that a day is coming, I repeat what I said at that particular meeting, that a day is coming when you all will give an account for your actions. So to sit here today and see that the discussion is taking place about a recall, thank you, Jesus. Scripture says in Isaiah chapter 5, woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness before light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitterness. I called Lee Harris, Mayor Lee Harris, on January the 19th, Sunday morning, 11:30 a.m. I called him on his cell phone, and I asked him, Mayor Harris, where do you stand with Dr. Fagans? What's your position? How do you stand? The people want to hear from you. We haven't heard from you. Talk to us. This was 2 days prior to Dr. Fagans being terminated. He said that he would think about making a public statement that day or that the next day, which was Monday. Well, he didn't make a statement. So on Wednesday, the day after Dr. Fagans was terminated, Mayor Harris made a statement to the media, and he told the people to basically pull back and that we needed to move forward. And we don't have time to reminisce about what had happened. Well, it's my understanding that one of the commissioners now, Commissioner Ford, to be exact, there's an issue where he's under investigation. And the same mayor is now telling the people that this man need to be suspended and he don't need to have any more dealings with the grants. Do you still want us to pull back and move forward? You need to do the same thing that you're telling us to do. He needs to pull back and we need to move forward. Ethics is all about accountability, transparency. It's about compliance. And we all know that this body of government has a lot of issues when it comes to ethics. And we can start with the mayor's office with that $1 million he got. Where's the $1 million?
Thank you, Ms. Rudd.
We want a recall. The board members has to go.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Rudd. Madam Clerk, would you ready the board? The board is ready. Every member desiring to vote, please cast your vote. What was the question?
We have aye votes from Commissioners Clay Bibbs, Caswell, Sugarman, Ford, Wright, Bradford, Thornton, Morrison, Brooks, Lowry, and Chairman Whaley. We have 11 aye votes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This item goes down with a favorable recommendation. Madam Parliamentarian, next item.
Item 4 is an ordinance first reading, ordinance to amend the Shelby County Code of Ordinances, Chapter 18, Article 2, Code of Ethics to ensure county ethical provisions are applied consistently and more closely aligned with the charter and state law. Sponsored by Chairman Michael Whaley.
Thank you. This item has been moved by Commissioner Bradford and second by Commissioner Chairman Whaley. Chairman Whaley.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. There's a substitute exhibit that I'd like to move that I think better clarifies the changes that are being proposed. The language itself should be the same as the one that's in the system, but I'd just like to move a cleaner exhibit for the record.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Bradford and Commissioner Whaley, second by Commissioner Sugarman, to move the substitute motion. Can we do that without objection?
Substitute exhibit.
I'm sorry?
Substitute exhibit.
Substitute exhibit, excuse me. Can we do that without objection? So moved. Commissioner Chairman Whaley.
All right, yep, thank you, Madam Chair. I'll also turn it over to the County Attorney's Office to further clarify, but just wanted to clarify there's a few smaller changes in here, but the real main change is around adding in a definition of emolument, which wasn't in the original Code of Ordinances, and then also reducing the size of the Ethics Commission from 13 to 7. So it's currently 12 members plus a chair. The proposal is to reduce it to 6 members plus a chair. So that would allow it, in theory, to be easier to meet. But the rest of the processes that have been in place in the ethics ordinance would remain the same. But I would defer to the county attorney's office to explain any further changes.
Megan Smith, County Attorney's Office. Briefly, I'll just highlight the main changes. The chairman's right. We're adding a definition of emoluments because the current version of the ordinance doesn't really contemplate employment, whether that's part-time or full-time. Emoluments is a term that appears in the charter. It is undefined. You're permitted to define these words in an ordinance, and that's what we're going to do here. This ensures that you can have a job. Makes it clear how that job can function in terms of salary and work with the county. I think a good example is if you have a sheriff's deputy who works here and is also security at another establishment in town that has a contract with the county, this definition says if that salary is fixed, then you're ready to go. The other thing that the chairman mentioned was the reduction in board members. That is true. The makeup is being proposed from a 13-member organization to a 7-member organization. The hope is that this makes quorum something that can be established and the board can become functional. The other changes include a streamlined reference to Chief Ethics Officer. The board might remember that you all adopted a previous ordinance establishing that office. This just makes the reference streamlined throughout. And then there is
First, and so again, moving forward, I will prefer that, number one, the Chief Ethics Officer be placed first. The other thing is, I would like to have this more reflective of the City Council's Ethics Board. For example, I understand that each city council person has the opportunity to appoint a person, and then it's confirmed by the mayor. And so I think that we should be more reflective as far as what the city council is doing, as opposed to decreasing. I'd like to increase to 13 as opposed to 6. And I'd like to make that as an motion.
Felisa Cox, Contracts Administrator, Ethics Officer. I'm sorry, Commissioner, did you say you want to increase it to 13?
That is correct. I want it to be more reflective of the city council, where each city council person can recommend someone to be on the board, and then it's confirmed by the mayor. And so I would like it to be more reflective of what the city council is doing, as opposed to reducing the amount, to increase the amount to 13. And I'd like to make that a motion, to move it to 13 as opposed to reducing it.
Felisa Cox, Contracts Administrator, Ethics Officer. Commissioner Sugarman, there already are 13 members to this board. And the way they're selected might be different from what you're proposing, but there are 13 members, and the only reason that this is being brought forward to reduce the number is the difficulty we've had in trying to achieve a quorum so that this ordinance could function the way it should function. And so since I've been here, I've been the ethics officer off and on now for about 3 years, since 2019. And we have tried several times to convene a meeting and have never been able to accomplish a quorum. And so if we want this to actually be effective, this is our method or opportunity, since we're already trying to make amendments, to try to address that issue.
Okay, then again, I would like to go back to my original question then, because the board member has not been in effect. I believe they have not been, their term have expired. And so this would not be relative to what you're saying. So again, the motion is to have 13, and the process would be different. It would be, for example, the commissioners, each commissioner can appoint someone and confirm by the mayor. So what I'm asking is not the same, is to have the process to be reflective of what the city council is doing. And you cannot say that they haven't had a quorum when they have expired. So I understand your rationale behind that.
Felisa Cox, Contracts Administrator, Ethics Officer. They have not always been expired. They're considered holdovers. They're considered holdovers, and since I have been here, they have been contacted to ask if you would consider continuing to perform, and we have not been able to get them, even as holdovers, to participate. And what you're considering is, I think, somewhat not consistent with our charter. The board does not make the appointments. You do make the approvals of the mayor's appointments.
Okay, Commissioner Sugarman has moved to amend this resolution. to reflect the number 13 as opposed to the number 7. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I object to that, given the feedback we just received.
Okay, I stand corrected by the parliament that exists on the city council. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And there was a second? The second by Commissioner Thornton. And there is an objection? Commissioner Morrison?
Correct, just
Okay.
based on the feedback we just heard.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on the objection? Commissioner Avant?
Thank you, Chair. I just have a question about, Ms. Cox, you mentioned, based on our charter, why the appointments and the approval process exists the way it does. So based on the charter, if you could just explain and outline that, because I thought when any appointment is made to an advisory role within county government, it comes before this body with recommendations from the mayor's office. Is that correct?
Commissioner, I believe you can make recommendations to the mayor for appointments, and this body can confirm those appointments. But those are just recommendations. The mayor proposes the appointments.
Okay. That's clarifying. And that's based on the way our charter is set up. Is that correct?
Felisa Cox, Contract Administrator, Ethics Officer. Yes, Commissioner.
Okay. So I guess my objection, and I won't be voting in favor of the amendment, is because if the charter states that it is set up one way, how do we go against the charter and making a change? We can't make a change to the charter, is that correct?
Felisa Cox, Contract Administrator. That is correct.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Thornton?
Thank you, Chair. So charter amendments, can you just go through how that happens? Because the charter can be amended. And I'm just asking that because in the context, the normal process of the appointments, this seems to be consistent with it. But in the context of ethics, it's kind of questionable to me when the mayor is making appointments and we're just voting on those appointments. Oftentimes, I don't know how many of my colleagues are actually suggesting the appointments and the mayor's accepting them. It seems to be a process that stems from the administration's functions. So hypothetically speaking, if the mayor had an ethics complaint, you appointed the whole body, how would that be an ethical process when there wouldn't be any type of check between you and the people who you've appointed?
Felisa Cox, Contracts Administrator, Ethics Officer. I believe it was alluded to before that there was an amendment to this ordinance where this body has changed the process for the Chief Ethics Officer. So it was meant to be an independent person. And this board is a voluntary, it's a voluntary board. It's not really controlled by the mayor or this body. But at this point, we do not have that Chief Ethics Officer as contemplated by the ordinance, but that is set up to be an independent person.
So that independent person, but that independent person is not appointing the people on the board, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Felisa Cox, Contracts Administrator. That would be appointed by the mayor and confirmed by this body.
And then who, the chief officer, that person gets in their position how?
He would be appointed by the mayor.
Okay. He or she?
He or she.
Okay.
He or
So
she.
all I'm just saying, just to this body, I've been pushing for a very long time for separation of powers. Here, there is an unclear area where the mayor clearly has an imbalanced power here. And the context of it is ethics. So, if the mayor had an issue with one of the commissioners, you've appointed the whole body. And that could easily be something that becomes partial in a place that specifically with appointments, we will want there to be impartiality. So, I know this is the first reading. I would just be interested to hear, how do we contemplate with others? I've heard Memphis Municipal reference. I would be curious to hear how other bodies are operating in this context. And then two, just really just to address this issue, I would like to hear an alternative that could create more of a neutral place, whether it's board appointees coming from each of the 13 commissioners approved by the mayor, or not approved by the mayor, but formalizing that process of each of the commissioners making the recommendation to the mayor for him to then have us approve. We just need to contemplate something that strikes a better balance of what we have here. Right now, what we hear is very much so stacked in favor of the mayor. And just if you could just answer that play of, if the mayor has an ethics violation, how is this process going to create a fair process for that ethics violation to be vetted? Thank you.
Attorney Smith.
Megan Smith, County Attorney's Office. I think it's helpful to understand that this body also adopted the law that gave the Ethics Commission its duties, authorities, and responsibilities. How it functions is defined within the ordinance. What it does in the course of an investigation or a hearing is defined in that ordinance. They can only have that authority which is granted to them by law. So when we talk about fairness and impartiality, the ethics ordinance is actually stacked with procedure that if the board was functioning, it could use.
Thank you. Commissioner Sugarman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so you all just answered the question. Again, I mean, we can make recommendations, and I think that it's according to the charter. So we have that right to make recommendations to the mayor. I think that each one of us, if they choose to make a recommendation, should make a recommendation so it reflects what the city council is currently doing. Number two, Attorney Smith, I would like for you to provide for every commissioner a copy of the city council, as well as any other municipalities' process as far as the ethics board, how it's comprised and functions, et cetera, in particular the city council. Because I would like, for again, our ethics board to be reflective of what they're doing in the city council, but apparently it's working. I cannot speak to people who are not showing up, and maybe that goes back to the mayor's appointments. So again, going to as far as the charter goes, we do have that right according to the charter to make recommendations. Now, if the mayor does not want to appoint those individuals, that's his right as well. So it does not go against what's in the charter. Thank you. And we would like to have that before Monday's meeting. I appreciate that.
Commissioner Thornton.
Are y'all on the same page? I just wanted to, okay. Okay, good. So there seems to be, the issue of people showing up for quorum. So that's an interesting one because it's like, who are these people that we're appointing that they're not actually serving the role that they were appointed for? And so when I heard you say, it seems like people's terms have expired and they are being offered an extension, is that correct?
Felisa Cox, Contracts Administrator, Ethics Officer. Well, based on the ordinance, they would be considered holdovers.
Because their terms expired.
That's correct.
And our difficulty is in getting them to recommit for a new term?
I would say that is very true. I would also say that I believe some of the complications in the past have been, if the board recalls, there was the blue ribbon panel. And I believe there were some candidates and somehow that process got sidelined, which also contributed to us not having the body appointed.
So when we are in this carryover process, is it just advertised to the public who would like to sit on this board, submit your application? Can you just talk about the process? The inability to be able to meet quorum because we don't have people who are committed to the role is something that we can, I feel, work around and legislate. So, terminating advertising like an open position. I don't understand why we're so locked in on keeping people to maintain those positions. If they don't want to fulfill them, there should be a period where we're looking to fill the vacancy with the larger public.
Megan Smith, County Attorney's Office. I think there are a couple of things. Our boards and commissions are placed on the county website. The process that, these board members are recruited by, I'm not sure of how exactly that works, so I'm not going to opine on that here. I think that it's important to note that we're talking about holdovers that are approximately 10 years old. And I think that when several calls were made to bring board members together, because by operation of law, they still held their seat, they would come, but there would never be enough to meet quorum for a 13-member organization. And then when efforts were made to place members on the Ethics Commission, those items were never successful. So I think this is a combined effort to reduce the membership, to re-engage with our holdovers until there is replacements for each term of office. I think that these are the steps we're offering in order to bring the board back into compliance with state law and increase its functionality. I think there are a lot of individuals who are very eager to serve, even in their holdover capacity. It has just been difficult because when they arrive for those meetings that are sunshine properly, there's not enough in order to conduct the business of the board.
Okay, Commissioner Sugarman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And also, that's some very good points that Commissioner Thornton brought up. And I would like to know, do you all have like criteria for these particular individuals that you're looking for? And also number two is, for example, if you don't show up for a certain amount of meetings, is there anything as far as losing your appointment? Are those kinds of things in there that we can look at so that we don't continue to say, oh, there's not enough for a quorum? So, for example, if they miss 2 consecutive meetings, then they're just, withdrawn and you go on to the next person. And there's ways of getting around it. We can put things procedurally in place so that we can make sure that we do have a quorum. And also, again, I would like to reiterate, I like this body to be more reflective of the city councils because they're not having these same issues as far as meeting the quorums that we are. So it's something that we need to look at as far as what we can do. And I do support maintaining the 13, to your point, and then maybe, again, giving the commissioners the opportunity to recommend to the mayor an individual or individuals so that he can select from, as opposed to the mayor putting it out and just, handpicking who he wants. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, I don't believe we need to try to solve every single issue now. We have 2 more readings on this, right? So there could be some other conversations during the meetings and offline. But we do have a motion before us, Commissioner Sugarman's motion, that was properly second for the composition of the Ethics Commission to reflect the composition of the City Council's Ethics Commission. So we're going to vote on that. I'm sorry. Commissioner Thornton.
I'm going to honor your request and just ask some questions to legal counsel offline that I'll bring into the second reading. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Point of information, so exactly what are we voting on now?
Your motion, after we hear from, we have a public comment.
Okay.
Your motion to amend. All right, Ms. Rudd. Is she still here? I know, but she wanted to speak again. Thank you. Did you want to speak again, Ms. Rudd? Okay.
I move to suspend the rules, so.
Street. I'm going to say this real quickly when it comes to ethics. I took an ethics course in college. It was called Just Business. I passed that course with a B+. So I think I did fairly well when it comes to ethics. And again, we all know that when it comes to ethics, we're talking about accountability, transparency, and compliance, and integrity. Now, there's a lot of things that's going on within Shelby County government that is unethical. So if you do it for one, you got to do it for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so the motion before us is Commissioner Sugarman's motion to amend the resolution so that it will reflect the composition of the city councils. Okay. The city council's ethics commission, and there was an objection by Commissioner Morrison. We're voting on that motion. Is that correct? Okay. Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk.
We have aye votes from Commissioners Sugarman, Ford, and Thornton. Commissioners Clay Bibbs, Caswell, Wright, Bradford, Morrison, Brooks, Avant, and Chairman Whaley have voted no. We have 3 ayes and 8 noes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That a motion fails. We are back on the main motion. Commissioner Wright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Madam County Attorneys. So my question or my comment would be, when we're looking at this Ethics Commission, which we haven't functionally had since I've been on this board. So I'm not personally familiar with their duties, but I'm looking at the language here. And it looks like when they're holding meetings, this Ethics Commission, they're holding meetings, and they're reviewing complaints that have been made. And it looks like the powers that they hold, ultimately, like what's the biggest case scenario of what they could produce, what could come out of this board, meetings of this board. And it says under Part 3D that it could result, well, or C, D, or E, I guess it could result in a censure or in an ouster suit being brought. And my comment would be that it seems like our ouster suits are also a defunct process, because it's been 2 years now that one has been underway for a county official. And so I guess my question is that state law that prescribes who may bring that ouster suit, or is that in our charter?
Megan Smith, County Attorney's Office. State law defines the process for ouster or removal of elected officials.
So this would have to fall in line with state law. We could not add to the portion of it here that talks about an ouster suit.
Megan Smith, County Attorney's Office, that particular section does not negate the application of the state law. It simply recommends a next step. That could be a recommendation from the Ethics Commission.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for that clarification. I would just say, I'm certainly supportive of this body being functional and having enough members to meet and do its work. But I'm not going to get my hopes up about it actually producing any results for obvious reasons. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other members in the queue, we'll move to the vote. Madam Clerk?
We have aye votes from Commissioners Clay Bibbs, Caswell, Sugarman, Ford, Wright, Bradford, Morrison, Brooks, Avant, and Chairman Whaley. Commissioner Thornton has abstained. We have 10 ayes and 1 abstained.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That item goes down with a favorable recommendation. Madam Parliamentarian, please read the item number 5.
Item 5 is an ordinance first reading, ordinance approving and setting the salary for the Board of County Commissioners for Shelby County, Tennessee for the 2026 through 2030 term of office to account for inflation effective after the August 2026 election, sponsored by Commissioner Erica Sugarman.
All right, this item has been moved by Commissioner Sugarman and second by Commissioner Caswell. Commissioner Sugarman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so I just brought this for discussion. And so I remember Commissioner Thornton brought this before the board, but withdrew it because she thought that these positions should be full-time positions. And so I have a question for the attorney. For these positions become full-time, because a lot of us work, 8 to 10 hours, a day, weekends included, and so it's 24/7 almost for some of us. So Commissioner Thornton had thought about withdrawing her ordinance, so I want to bring it back. But a question for the attorney is, what is the process in changing these positions to full-time positions if that was to go forward? And then the second thing is, I'm bringing this is because this reflects the inflation. And so this will not take effect with this body, but the next elected body, whomever they are. And this is a question to the attorney through the chair.
Marcia Ingram, Legislative Counsel. Commissioner Sugarman, I would have to research to see whether or not that would need to be done by resolution or ordinance, if it's even possible to change from part-time to full-time. I'll research and get back with you.
Thank you. And so to my colleagues, this is the reason why, I wanted to adjust the salaries to reflect the inflation rate. And again, we have given the employees, the Shelby County employees, a 6% increase. And so this is to reflect the inflation rate. So I urge my colleagues to approve this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ford.
I have one question. I didn't get the answer a couple of weeks ago because it was withdrawn, but could somebody justify the new salary on how they calculated that? I know that the former sponsor, this was hers. I don't know if the new sponsor has an answer to that question.
Yes, it was based over the inflation rate from the time that, I think it was 2022, that the commissioners received a raise from the previous Board of Commissioners, so based on the inflation rate over time.
Okay, that increase that was approved by this body 4 years ago was based on the Social Security Administration website. What ended up happening was, because there was a decrease in 2010 and there was no increase for like almost 12 years, that cost of living, that COLA, was added for all of those years to get to that particular number. So just for the new sponsor, if you put the same information in that we used for last time, that number will actually be larger.
Correct.
So
Correct.
it's whatever you want to do, and I know we have 3 other readings, so I don't have anything else to talk about on this item.
Seeing no other members in the queue, Madam Clerk, let's move to the vote, please. Every member voted.
Chair, my voting screen's not coming up, but please show me as a no.
Okay, Commissioner Bradford, no. Madam Clerk?
We have aye votes from Commissioners Caswell, Sugarman, and Thornton. Commissioners Wright, Bradford, Morrison, Brooks, Avant, and Chairman Whaley have voted no. Commissioner Ford has abstained. We have 3 ayes, 5 noes, 6 noes, and 1 abstained.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This item goes down with an unfavorable recommendation. And that concludes general government. Thank you.
I think there's some add-ons.
Oh, yes, it is. Add-on, what's the number? Number 6. Madam Parliamentarian, do you have that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Would you please read the caption?
Yes, ma'am. Item 6 is an add-on item. Item 6 is a resolution to amend Rule 7 of the Board of Shelby County Commissioners Permanent Rules of Order to create the Milton Public Safety Program, sponsored by Commissioner David C. Bradford, Jr.
Thank you. That item, we need to get it properly before us, has been moved by Commissioner Thornton and second by Commissioner Morrison. All right. I don't see any members.
I'm trying to speak, but
Okay, I don't see you
technology.
there, but okay. Bradford.
Colleagues, I bring this before us. I've had lots of public concern about our Community Enhancement Grant Program over the weekend. And so regarding this program, my thought is to change this program and make it a public safety program instead, keeping former Commissioner Milton's name on it. As such, then this program, all the funding would go to the various public safety departments in the county, whether it be county or municipal police and fire departments. I know we've already had long discussion at our last meeting about funding of the fire departments, and so I thought this may be a good opportunity and a good way to put these funds towards public safety items in the county. And so I have brought this before us today to discuss and think about.
Thank you. Commissioner Sugarman.
Thank you. And so I do object to this, and I'm going to say why. In Hickory Hill, I have brought several resolutions to bring funding resources to my community. For example, the parks have not been maintained by the county for the past 10 years. There's no funding sources available to maintain these parks. These are places where our children go to play. They go to enjoy camaraderie, et cetera, et cetera. The parks in my particular district, Hickory Hill, there are danger zones. These kids cannot go to these parks and play on any equipment. The equipment's broken. I have HOAs meetings all the time. They want to know what are we going to do about these parks. And so a lot of the resources that I put into my communities come from the CEP grants. Another issue in my community in Hickory Hill is the unhoused. As you all look at my records, where my resources go for the unhoused in my community. Feeding the unhoused, finding shelter for the unhoused. We need recreational amenities. We need also places where people can go for shelter when the weather is dangerously low or dangerously high. And so this body, and as a result, many times has voted against supporting resources for my community. I have that on record as well. And so this is an opportunity for me as a commissioner representing Hickory Hill to give them the resources, some resources. $200,000 is really not enough. For example, one park in itself would cost $500,000. the CEP money for 2026, the majority of that would go for a skateboard park, which have been fighting for the past year. We finally were able to get $223,000 of ARPA money for this park, for the skateboard park. The kids go to Highland Oaks Park to fight. That's their source of entertainment. We've got to do better than this. And to give more money to the sheriff's department, so we're more interested in locking people up than providing them with other outlets. I'm totally against this. Look at my record. Pull all the CEPs, see where the dollars are going to. It's going to the disadvantaged, minoritized, and mainly youth in our communities. And I stand on record. In fact, I've got a CEP on today's agenda. $5,000 is going for skateboards and helmets for the kids, not just in my community, but throughout Shelby County. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Caswell.
Thank you, and again, I understand Commissioner Bradford, where you may be coming from with this. The reason why I have to object, I think about just on this yesterday, stakeholders in my community that showed up at my stakeholder meeting was thanking the blight crew that went out and cleaned up what the city didn't do for almost a month. And they did it in 2 days of me reaching out to that organization. Some communities may not have these type of problems that we are addressing. And I remember serving with Regina Milton, Commissioner Milton, before we became county commissioners, when we were doing teen pregnancy program, and we were giving the money to the sheriff and to the school districts, but we were doing programs in our community that we never seen grassroots organizations get resources to do that work. My concern is that even, and I thank the police department, but they're not there with me at 8 o'clock to midnight on Friday night with light at night when I asked them to be in the sheriff's department, who told me that he didn't have enough officers to be put there. But for a year, we've been running that program where we have not had an incident. Over 100 and some young men shows up from all over the county. I know Commissioner Thornton, Lowry, and others have been there to see this work in action. Now they have duplicated in South Memphis at the street ministry, but this comes from us having some direct contact with people we know doing the work on the ground. It's unfortunate we are where we are today because of what's happening, yet we're seeing this real work, and we have some great outcomes that are coming out of that district with what we're doing with Wraparound District 6. These organizations would not be receiving their funds. Again, I appreciate when I do call on Memphis Police Department, they will respond to us, but that's after the fact. We need people that are willing to be there and do this type of work, and they are doing it. And so I hate to take from these type of organizations that we're knowing making an impact and helping us in public safety in those communities with these prevention and intervention opportunities that we've been giving them. And so I appreciate the spirit of where you're coming from, yet I have to object just to know that I see that work happening through organizations that were overlooked for many years in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thornton.
Thank you, Chair. I think that Commissioner Caswell captured a lot of my sentiments. I mean, it's interesting that we're talking about the Milton grants. I think if I'm reading this space, it's because of like recent headlines that the public has shown a lot of active interest in the grant making process. So it's like I get it, but then on the other hand, it feels very much so like a reactive action. I think that other areas that we should look into are just the economic impact of the Milton grant allocations. I know that each of the recipients does an annual report. I've never actually seen any type of like summative report from all of the collective impact across all of the allocations that we grant. So I think that that could be interesting to help us be able to really vet, the strength of our investments. I don't think that channeling the monies through public safety is going to directly benefit District 10. I also must say that I don't think that the current way that we're going about the Milton grants is actually benefiting District 10 either. So I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, not in support of making this uniquely around public safety, but then also thinking we should stay in this space to legislate more around the Milton grants. So I welcome feedback about that, particularly to the chair of our grant-making process. I think that we could open up a space or conversation just to talk about how we can make it more robust and impactful. So I welcome that part. I will just say that these platforms are platforms. You know, being in elected office brings more resources to you, and I have seen a lot of benefit in being able to support organizations with this platform. And so if you take away the Milton grants, the question is what do we as sitting electeds have to be able to engage with the community? So I think that this realigning the funds is going to create less of an impact from a powerful office. So I won't support it for that reason, and I do welcome additional conversations around the Milton grants. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Morrison.
Thank you, Chair. And I do support this add-on, and to my colleague's comment about it being a reactive resolution, it may look that way because you weren't here previously, but I believe it was in 2019 that the sponsor of this ordinance of this resolution supported my attempt to move the Milton community grants to services, specifically public transit, and that failed in this body. But it's my opinion that though there are many, many fabulous nonprofits in our community, that this program is problematic for many, many reasons. One, it's maybe 1% of our, less than 1% of our budget, yet I think it takes 20 to 25% of our time. And that, in my opinion, is just not productive. It's my view that when government is in this space to this degree, it hampers, in some ways, potentially the private sector's work in that space. And so I am very much supportive of what Commissioner Bradford brought. In fact, I have an add-on as well. I would like to see this program focused very narrowly on something like public safety or disappear altogether. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Whaley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just in light of some of this conversation and these different proposals that we're hearing, one solution I'd like to offer up as a substitute to what's been proposed by Commissioner Bradford is that we propose a moratorium on the current program to be able to evaluate both the integrity of the program and, entertain any additional proposals. I think that's more prudent than sort of any of these sort of back-of-the-hand changes that, would be done within as an add-on. I'm not sure that's the best route to go. So I do have prepared here a resolution that would institute a 60-day moratorium, would keep it within this fiscal year, and I think allow every commissioner to be able to propose any potential changes they'd want to see. It'd give me the opportunity to explore both with council, but others on what ways to strengthen its integrity, because I also do agree that it has done a lot of good, really helped many organizations and people within Shelby County, but there are certainly concerns on how it can be strengthened, the integrity of it. So that's what I would propose. So the caption here would read, and if Commissioner Bradford, since you're the mover of this first add-on, if you're agreeable to this, I think we can do it quite simply. But the resolution is a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Shelby County, Tennessee, hereby instituting a 60-day moratorium on the Milton Community Enhancement Grant Program.
Yeah, I'm acceptable of that. Where does that put us 60 days from now?
So 60 days from today would be in May, early May. Well, 60 days from March 17th.
Sunday, May 4th.
Okay, so it's going to be early May.
Yeah, I'm acceptable to that,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, so is that your motion? Okay, it has been motioned and by Commissioner Chairman Whaley and second by.
Properly seconded by Commissioner Bradford.
Properly second by Commissioner Bradford. Can we do that without objection? Okay, we have two objections. Commissioner Sugarman objected to the motion, and Vice Chair Avant. Okay, so now we're on the objection. Discussion, Commissioner Sugarman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so my objection is the 60 days. This is time sensitive. As I stated before, we have a skateboard park that we've been focusing on. It's ARPA funds. And so what I plan to do is the balance of my funds and CUP is go towards the skateboard park. And so again, I object because now you're putting at risk the $223,000 that this board had approved of. And so again, I would like for us to not to issue the moratorium, but we can still bring conversations to the table. For example, maybe a callback clause or more accountability, oversight of things of that nature. And then I'm curious about, I know some of my colleagues have things in the pipeline. How will that impact them? And the second thing I want to say is that even though Commissioner Morrison stated it takes 25%, I don't agree with that at all. I think that there needs to be streamlined and the process needs to be quickened because there's an issue from the time that we approve the CEPs to the time that these nonprofits receive the funding needs to be shortened. And so I object because, again, this puts a bigger amount of funding at risk because I do want to send the rest of the CEP money to the building of the skateboard park. And so that's my reason for this objection for the moratorium. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Morrison.
Thank you. Though I would support the moratorium, I think we still should vote on the resolution on the floor, is my comment as to, I don't know if the amendment was meant to take away the resolution on the floor, or I'd prefer to vote on that and then bring the moratorium if it does not pass.
No, I believe Commissioner Bradford accepted a friendly amendment. Did you not?
Except we had an objection, so.
Right, so we are on the objection. Did you wish to continue to speak on the objection, Commissioner Morrison?
No, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Avant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mine is more just a procedural question around the moratorium for those grants that have already been approved in the last 30 days. We know that there's an execution process to those funds going out. So would the moratorium be for us not to approve any new grants, but all grants that had already been approved and are in the process of allocation, that those funds would be released? So it's just a question to the sponsor and maybe the co-sponsor.
Okay. Did Commissioner Bradford, do you want to respond?
I'll probably defer to Chair Whaley on when the moratorium would start, but I would think anything currently on our agenda, we would go ahead and see forward and then pause after that, but I'll defer to the chairman.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. That's correct. It wouldn't apply to anything that's already been processed or approved. And in fact, this would go till March 17th. So any action today isn't binding either, since it's just a committee recommendation. I think if we wanted to look at a different effective date, we could, but it wouldn't affect anything that's already been approved or through the process. And it would be after March 17th.
Thank you, Chair Whaley. Just wanted clarification. I'm in favor of supporting the moratorium for the purposes of us reviewing the process. I do want to caution my colleagues that with the intent and integrity that most of us have provided grants to the communities we serve, we don't want that to be lost in this process, right? So, I'm happy to support the moratorium, but I do think that we've been able to do a lot of good in our communities as a result of this community enhancement program. And so, the intent for most of us, I think, is to do that, right? And so I just don't want that to be lost in this conversation that the group here in this room has had good intent in supporting their community. So, but I can support the moratorium for the purposes of reviewing the process.
All right, thank you. Vice Chair Avant. I want to say one thing here before I go back to the queue, if I may. I really don't like how this looks. I really don't. So I need to understand, are we saying that there's something inherently wrong with the grant program, the processes of the grant program, or are we trying to maybe justify or change the face or make something look better because something has happened regarding the grant program? I mean, what did the grant program do? What is wrong with the grant program? We need to be clear about our intent here. So if we're not clear about the intent, you're going to do some serious harm. And I don't think we need to be in the business of trying to save face. And I'm not. I don't have to save face about anything. The grant programs, since I've been here, has helped a number of organizations that provide vital services in economically strapped communities, psychosocial services, a lot of them. And some of the comments I've heard probably don't need those kinds of services. And we know what kinds of employers we have in this community, not progressive for sure. We know where we live. We know the population. We know the poverty rate. We know all of the ills because they are headlined in every social media, every tabloid, everything for the world to see. We need to be in the business of providing whatever assistance we can provide. We don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So if we got an issue, state the issue. Don't try to save face about something that doesn't need to have face saved. And again, I don't like the way this looks. I do not. Commissioner Thornton.
Thank you, Chair, for those comments as well. I'm just curious, so we're saying that the moratorium is replacing the existing caption around the public safety, correct? And with that, so a 60-day moratorium to accomplish what? What, can we get more clarity around what is going to be accomplished? Because I'm someone that has a district that has a number of stakeholders who are in queue and will be directly impacted by this. And so I just don't want to delay. They've already worked so hard to get to this point, and we're scheduled to have them on the next agenda. So would love to know more about what we hope to accomplish over the 60 days, and if there would even be a consideration for a 30-day moratorium, because just express what's the significance of 60 as compared to 30 days.
Madam Chair, may I respond? Yes. Okay. Great, thank you for that. So my proposal is just in reaction to what we're seeing right now, which are multiple competing major changes to the program that I do not believe we should just contemplate on the fly. I think this is an opportunity to evaluate if we want to make any changes at all. It doesn't mean we have to, but it gives us a chance to review it. And quite frankly, there may be small tweaks to the reporting requirements that may satisfy this body, but what I'm proposing is an alternative to radically changing the program today to give us a chance to sort of step back and evaluate it in a more objective way. And everyone can do that. What I'm committing to is looking at, are there changes that can be made to the program that doesn't overburden any recipients, but allows an increase in the accountability of the program and how the funds are spent that are being allocated by this board. It could be simply in terms of requirements that we might require of the annual audits that they do as 501c3s as it relates to any governmental funds. Right? It could just be saying we want to make sure that any audit you do audits the funds that are provided by the county such that they match the description of the projects that were approved. It could be that simple, which really shouldn't overburden the entity itself It'd be more of an issue for the independent auditors that they would contract with as a 501c3. So that may be a change that's proposed, which, I think still allows the program to focus on the good that it does, that it continues to do, but strengthen sort of the back-end processes. So that's just an example, but anyone would be welcome to bring something. I'm also welcome to any change if we want to in the length of it. This is something that I would work on immediately, but, it was more of a response to what we're hearing from a desire from other commissioners to want to change the program.
Okay. You, Chairman Whaley, it's Commissioner Wright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've also heard not only from constituents over the last few days, but also from people within Shelby County government, countywide elected officials, people involved with with different grants programs, others who were reaching out to me in confidence to suggest ways to improve this program. There is emphasis and focus on this program, and people want to be sure that what's happening with it stays above board, is accountable and transparent. So that's why I would support a moratorium, but I think only if we accompany that with some sort of meeting where we could, hear from interested parties about their ideas to make this a more accountable and transparent process. So that would be my suggestion to you, Mr. Chair, to the mover, that we shouldn't just wait whether it's 30 days like my colleague suggested or 60 days to accompany that with a deep dive that we can't always do in a committee like this on a busy day. But I would just say again that there is an intense amount of focus on this, a variety of different temperaments about this program, but certainly a lot of concern. And there may be some simple ways to improve it to where we restore the public trust. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I need to ask the chair for clarity, the sponsor of this amendment. Why do we need to have the moratorium? I can understand that the program may need some tweaking. We all need to reassess programs that have been instituted for quite some time. So why do you find it necessary to have a moratorium in doing that, in trying to accomplish that? Please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This is, again, just a response to the proposals that we're hearing in front of us today. I think the body is welcome to vote how they wish. It was just my attempt to try to address the add-ons that we're getting here around abolishing the program or redirecting the program, is instead of that, why don't we take a little bit of time to decide what is really prudent in terms of strengthening the existing program, because I support the program, and it does a lot of good, and that's the intent. And to my colleague, Commissioner Wright's point, one thing I will note is that per our permanent rules, this is something we've done in Budget and Finance. It's within the purview of the committee chair to constitute a subcommittee within that committee, and that's something that can be done if we wish to have further sort of public discussion on this item. That can be done alongside the other budget subcommittees.
So to be clear, you're saying that in order to do this work, to get this done, we need to have a moratorium. Is that what I just need to be clear?
Yeah, I mean, I think it gives the time to be able to address it, true.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Commissioner Clay Bibbs.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So thank you, Chairman Whaley, for the clarification on that. I think for me, the program itself should not be changed, abolished, funds going towards public safety. I think all of my colleagues who serve communities very similar to mine have all stated the good that the program has done for those who do not have the opportunity to get large funding. If we're saying we're doing a moratorium in order for tweaks, conversations, whatever it is, my concern with the 60 days is the timing of it, because then we will be that close to the end of this particular budget. So that means then if we're saying we're waiting to the top of May, which really means you really only have that one meeting to be able to get all of that done, around that time. So my question would be more around, is there an opportunity for us, if we're saying the moratorium has to happen in order for, hopefully, I think this is Commissioner Caswell's committee, hosts his subcommittee meetings, can we do that within 30 days? So then that way, if we're back online, then we know our timing of when we have to get all of this done. Just, mine is a timing issue.
Thank you. Commissioner Thornton.
Thank you, Chair. I did hear Commissioner Clay Bibbs ask for, were you asking for 30 days?
I was asking for 30. I've heard it said several times. I just want us to be very clear in our timeline, because 60, I think, puts us too close to the end of the fiscal year in order for us to be able to do some things. So for me, I think 30 makes more sense, because it's not like we're going into the 30 days starting today. You have time. I think the meeting is what, on the 17th? The commission, when is the commission meeting? Yeah, March 17th. So if it's voted on that day, then it would be 30 days after the 17th. Versus if you say 60, it's 60 days after the 17th. Just making sure we're clear on timing in order to get this work done and still be able to be responsive to community.
Okay, Commissioner Clay Bibbs, is that a motion?
I would love for that to be
Okay.
just amendment. It would be an amendment to what's already out there with the 60, 30.
Will the sponsor accept a friendly amendment?
Yes, I would accept that. And I would also, within that request, the committee chair to constitute the subcommittee that can meet on the 19th of March, which would be 2 days after that meeting, to sort of expedite the process.
Okay, it's been moved and properly, did we have a second?
Just a point of information, the 30 days starts today? No. March 17th? What's this, okay, just getting us past our next commission meeting? Can it start on, well, I'm in queue next.
30 days.
I would just, my only additional amendment was to make the start date the next committee, so that there will be enough time for the people in District 10 that are in queue, not on this agenda, to get on the next agenda.
It won't impact me. I'm not sure about this, but I'll ask a question. Maybe, I'm not sure that it will impact anything that's in queue right now.
They're not, so just for clarity, from the perspective of District 10, we have organizations who are currently working with Tanya. They're not on the agenda today, but they're scheduled to get on the agenda for the next committee meeting. So if we start the moratorium on the 17th, then they would be in holding, because the next committee, I believe, is on the 19th.
Okay.
So my request to the sponsor would be for it to start on the 19th.
Point of information. Point of information, because.
Just 1 second, just 1 second, Commissioner, Madam Parliamentarian, can we get parliamentary order here?
So we have a substitute that's been properly moved and seconded, and then there was an objection by Commissioner Sugarman. There was discussion. It's not proper to have a friendly amendment when there's an objection pending, unless the person that objected withdraws her objection.
No, I do not.
To vote on the objection?
I'm speaking on the objection.
Commissioner Lowry.
I'm sorry, I was in queue.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was in queue.
I missed
If
you,
don't
I'm
mind-
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Commissioner
Yes,
Evans?
yes, I'm in queue on the objection.